What's going on, everyone? Golden Ticket to History coming to you from my car again. Some carpool discussion videos on the paranormal. This would be, I believe, the fourth video that I've recorded on this subject. A lot of my videos are on location. I'm doing filming locations, historical places, haunted places, famous graves, cemeteries. And I've been doing these carpool discussion videos the last couple of days or so, and I've really enjoyed them. They've had some conversations that have been sparked in various different social media platforms, which I've enjoyed partaking in. They haven't necessarily performed as well on my channel as some of my other videos do, which is perfectly fine. I'm really enjoying doing these videos, which is why I continue to do them. Even if they don't perform as well as the other videos do, I am having fun doing them. And I'm enjoying and feeling very humbled by the conversations I've been able to have with various different people on the subject matter. And one of the concepts I'm thinking about today was the concept of near-death experiences or near-death premonitions. We've heard these stories about how individuals have been within days, weeks, months, or even years of their death, and they've had some recollection, some premonition, some vision of what their death was to be. Maybe how they were going to die. Maybe some of the events that took place up until their death and during their death. And it's one of those things, that from a supernatural standpoint, it's quite fascinating to me. We've heard different stories historically from various different famous people who have had premonitions about their deaths. Abraham Lincoln is one of the most prominent individuals that when you think about near-death experiences or near-death exposures, or to have these premonitions. One of the first stories I remember hearing about near-death experiences or exposures was a story from Abraham Lincoln a couple months before he ultimately was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. And the story goes where he was sleeping in his bedroom in the White House, and he's awakened from his sleep. While he's still sleeping, he walks down the hallway, walks towards one of the corridors, and he sees a whole bunch of people weeping. And he looks beyond the people weeping, and he notices that there is a coffin of someone who's lying at state. So he walks up next to one of the individuals who's weeping, standing by this coffin that's lying at state, and he asks one of the bystanders, "Oh, who's in the coffin? Who has died?" To which the person looks at Lincoln and says, they assassinated the president, which wakes Lincoln up from his dream to think that, wow, I just dreamed about my own demise. And not long afterwards, I can't remember the exact timeline, but it was not very much long afterwards, he ultimately was assassinated at the Ford's Theater while watching a performance, unfortunately, by John Wilkes Booth. Another prominent celebrity individual, a little bit of a different context, was a famous NASCAR driver by the name of Dale Earnhardt Sr. There was stories about, leading up to his death, people passing away. Ultimately, one of his friends passed away, and he ended up not going to the funeral, and some people were really surprised by that reaction of why he didn't go to the funeral. And he responded, pardon my language, but I'm going to be in one of those son of a bitches soon enough. And it was startling to the individuals who knew Dale Earnhardt Sr., but not long afterwards, he was competing in the flagship race of NASCAR, which is the Daytona 500, and he was going around, I believe it was the last lap, got to turn 4 and crashed into the wall. And unfortunately, at the time period, there wasn't requirements, but even if there was requirements, Dale Earnhardt Sr. refused to wear a device called the Hans device, which protects the neck and the head region, and he snapped his neck and ultimately succumbed to his injuries instantly after hitting the wall. But that's another example of how an individual had premonitions or visions of their death before it happened. What are some of your thoughts about near-death experiences, near-death exposures, this whole idea of people having premonitions about their death prior to it happening, or impending doom? You know, being able to make these predictions or have exposures to these life events, especially those who end in death. Do you have any experiences? Do you know any individuals who had visions or were exposed to different ideas or concepts, you know, or saw things in their sleep, or maybe just experiences they had, and then ultimately led to their untimely passing not long after? I would love to hear some of your stories. And do you think this is just a common factor? You know, maybe it was just a coincidence that these individuals were thinking about these ideas and then something happened? Or do you think it's something that's supernatural in nature? Do you think it's maybe something that higher powers are transmitting to these individuals who are passing to try to give them an opportunity to get their affairs in order and prepare for the future? Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think that these are just happenstance events, or are they actually coordinated conversations from a world beyond? Let me know what you think. As always, continue to look for the history and film. Until next time, coming to you from my car for another carpool discussion video on the paranormal. See you guys next time.